Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. Virginia-born filmmaker Derek Bort, whose next film, The Get Out, stars Russell Crowe, will be joining RVA Magazine at their Salon de Resistance on May 30th at Black Iris. I'll post a link on the webpage for the show at TV Jerry.
That was kind of the inspiration, was the building itself, turning that into a piece of art, and then educating the public, too, on American history. And more than just kind of education, telling a narrative story, we also wanted it to be this moment to bring the community together with this really unique experience.
That was today's guest, Sam Florer, Director of Public Programs at the Virginia Museum of History and Culture, talking about the initial inspiration behind IllumiNATION, the outdoor event celebrating our country's 250th that was projected on the 250-foot-long front of the museum from June 25th through 28th. It was a spectacular experience, and Sam is going to fill us in on the year-long process of creating this piece of art.
Sifter Review of the Week.
The 5-Star Weekend. On Peacock, Jennifer Garner plays a food influencer whose husband suddenly dies. To help her cope, she invites 4 of her friends to a weekend getaway in Nantucket. The actors are Regina Hall, Darcy Carden, Chloe Sevigny, and Gemma Chan, and their performances make the series worth watching. It starts with a promising premise, but pretty quickly deteriorates into a typical soap opera drama with the expected betrayals, heartbreaks, and breakthroughs. Being that the showrunner is Becca Brunstetter, who's best known for This Is Us, you can expect plenty of tears and emotional showdowns. However, the plot points are trite, and the dialogue never lifts this out of mediocre. I gave the 5-Star Weekend 2 out of 5 stars. So Sam Florer, thank you for doing this. First, I have to say, I was there. I went to see it on the Saturday night with some friends, and we were completely blown away. It was a spectacular... You may have seen my review, quote unquote, I put on social, but I was really impressed. So congratulations on that.
Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Sam, you are the Director of Public Programs, and that was definitely a public program. So kind of your baby, right?
It was, yep. So I had the privilege of working on this for, more than a year now, and was really excited to bring it all to fruition.
What's your background in terms of education and preparation for this?
My whole career has been working in museums. My focus has been on engaging the public in education. I went to school at the College of William and Mary. We've got a bachelor's and a master's in history, and I've worked at a variety of different museums in Virginia and been really pleased to be here at the VHMC to reach, these huge audiences that we've been able to reach these past few months.
I know when y'all were planning the 250th, there was SailFest, IllumiNATION. What came first, or how did this come about?
We've been working on the 250th for, almost 10 years.
Wow.
Our museum has really been trying to position ourselves as a leader, not just in Virginia, but across the country, in setting a model for what institutions like ours should be doing to engage the public around the 250th. So, we helped establish the state commission here in Virginia, the VA 250 Commission. Jamie Boskett, our CEO, he is one of the honorary chairmen. He sits on the board of that state commission. We also worked to gather leaders from all different states to gather in Williamsburg every year to talk about best practices and approaches to how to engage the public. And we've also been putting on major exhibitions, too, at the museum to engage people on that more academic kind of level. So we had last year, Give Me Liberty, Virginia and the Forging of a Nation, which was kind of our marquee exhibit focusing on Virginia's contributions to the American Revolution.
Right.
And then this year, we opened an exhibition called We the People, the World in Our Commonwealth. And that looks at the history of immigration in Virginia from the American Revolution all the way to the modern day. So kind of a companion piece to looking at the American Revolution itself, looking at how the United States has become the country it is today, and how we've lived up to those values established during the Revolution. So we've been having all these different programs going on. And this year in 2026, we wanted our 2 big marquee public programs to reach as many people as possible. So SailFest and IllumiNATION were kind of going hand in hand, two kind of different ways to do that. So SailFest, everybody loves tall ships, everybody loves boats.
Sure.
And we saw a unique opportunity with the larger Sail 250 program where this fleet of tall ships was going up the coast, started in New Orleans, went to Norfolk, Baltimore, and eventually to New York City on July 4th.
Right.
And so we saw this opportunity to bring some of those tall ships directly up the James to Richmond, where they haven't been in quite some time, and to have this big public festival around them, really focusing on kind of fun, family-friendly fun outdoors.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was a great success.
So then you got to illumination.
We wanted to take advantage of the Virginia Museum of History and Culture's really unique setting in our building itself. So the front of our building, dates to the 19-teens, the 1920s, when the building was first built.
And I just have to say that was very cool. In the production, you actually showed the building kind of being built that way.
Exactly. And that was kind of the whole point, is to utilize this really historic, unique architecture that we have and use it as a giant canvas to tell a huge story, which is the story of the United States. That was kind of the inspiration, was the building itself, turning that into a piece of art, and then educating the public too on American history. And more than just kind of education, telling a narrative story, we also wanted it to be this moment to bring the community together with this really unique experience. So, these large scale, like building wide video art projections are things that you see more often in Europe,
right,
on some of their old historic buildings. There are examples in the United States, but nothing quite to the scale that we were working with the front of our building, which is almost 18,000 square feet. It's
Wow.
250 feet long, 40 feet tall. So we saw this as a way to create a really unique moment for Richmonders, for Virginians, to experience a community event with thousands of their fellow citizens and really think about not only the past, but where we are currently and then where we're going in the future.
Now, I don't even know how to start on the technical aspects, because it must have been, how did you even begin to outline it, find all the imagery? What a monster task. And I'm sure you didn't do it by yourself.
No, we had a great team that we worked with. Yeah, so not only here at the museum, but we worked with local design firm Riggs Ward Design. They work on different museum projects across the country. And so they were a great partner in helping with the sourcing of the images, but then also working with the technical design team to actually put the projection together.
So how did you even start figuring out what to cover?
So, when we're thinking about the content and the story we wanted to tell, we really did want to be as comprehensive as possible, telling the story of the United States from before Europeans arrived, from before even indigenous people lived here. We really wanted to start from the beginning, just, nature scenes. So you might have noticed that was kind of how the show started, was just these peaceful scenes of nature, these grand landscapes, and then slowly building, adding people and kind of marching through time. So we worked out this outline of kind of just breaking the show into chunks, into content period chunks. And then thinking about, in those chunks of time, so in the American Revolution to the founding of the nation, what are those most important people, events, images that the public are going to recognize so we can connect with them and they kind of know what's going on. They can see themselves in the story. But then also adding in stories, adding in individuals who people might not recognize. So that hopefully then sparks interest, who was that? Oh, what was that event being portrayed? And so they can come do more research, maybe come back and visit our museum. And then it was just sourcing literally thousands of images. As you noticed, with our building being so large, there was so much going on the building all at one time.
Yeah.
And things were constantly changing and moving from scene to scene. And that was all purposeful. We wanted to make the show exciting, not just like a PowerPoint, something that really surprised people, drew people in. And so we sourced, these thousands of images. Pretty much all of them were open source. So from the Library of Congress, the National Archives, we were also able to use a large amount of images from our own museum collection, which was really special. Yeah. Especially with Virginia being so important to all these major points in our national story that really lended us an advantage to get our collection into the show as much as possible.
Surprise guest drop-in.
I got lots more questions about that, including, I'm sure, AI, because that had to be involved in that. But first, somebody dropped in to add a little point of view here. Hold on a second.
Oh, great.
Sherry Armstrong.
How are you?
Have you met Sam before?
Hey, Sam. It's nice to see you. Congratulations on a fabulous event.
Footnote.
Sherry Armstrong is the president and CEO of the Community Foundation. And she was there. You enjoyed it as much as I did, didn't you, Sherry?
I did. It was wonderful. Sam, I just want to say to you and Jamie and the team that it was a real honor for us to be a supporter of this event. This organization has done such a fabulous job over the last few years of telling the Virginia history in such an authentic, inclusive, and respectful way. And we couldn't be more proud to have been a partner in all of this. And this event just culminates how extraordinary we are as a state, and your all's ability to bring that to life for so many people was incredible.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. That was, I think, our greatest honor, was seeing the response from the community. Very similar to kind of the lines you were saying. You know, the whole goal of this was bringing as many people together, a representative audience that represented our city and our state. And I think that really bore out. The crowds, the age, the backgrounds of everybody who was there.
And the responses.
Exactly, yeah.
The cheers
and almost
and
every night, cheers. Yeah. You know, watching the show and the production over and over again, I kind of became numb to it at a certain point. But then seeing it with these audiences, it really did give me goosebumps when people were cheering at different scenes and ended just excited and happy. And I think that was really the goal of the whole thing.
So, Sherry, why don't you give us just a little nutshell of Community Foundation? How are we all involved, or how are you all involved in the community?
We're involved in many ways. We are an organization that has accumulated through individuals, families, a lot of different people who bring philanthropic dollars to the foundation. And then we are able to distribute those dollars to needed organizations in the region, lots of nonprofits. We have many donors that direct their giving, but we also have a pretty sizable amount of discretionary money. And one of the grants that we committed to a couple of years ago when VHMC was putting together with others the whole Virginia 250 events, we said we want to be a big part of that. So we made a substantial grant to actually help make it all come to life. The IllumiNATION plus Sail Fest and the civics programming that's going on across the state. So it's just been a really powerful partnership and something that we've really, really enjoyed being a part of.
Terrific.
To your point around you guys are in it every day and you were trying to put it all together. But I think the other thing that was really, really impactful, and I heard it and I saw it in people, it was this, wow, we are a part of something pretty special. It's so much bigger than ourselves. And I think that people just had such an amazing experience. And I even heard directly people say to me, it was like, it just was a real sense of community there. Humanity showed up in a big way, and just a lot of pride, I think, in our community. And you all really played a big role in helping that to happen. So thank you. And I think made the 250 experience something pretty special for a lot of people.
Agree. All right. Thank you so much, Sherry, for dropping in. It means a lot to us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sherry.
So now let's go back to this show. And I mentioned right before Sherry got on AI. Obviously, a lot of those images were moving and they were stills to start with. So how did you incorporate AI and who worked on that?
The video design part of the team was the one that was using those programming. But when we were designing and coming up with kind of the outline for the show and the direction for the show, which was all developed in-house by the museum, we provided the direction that we were happy to use AI to bring these images to life, but we didn't want any artificially created historical images, if that makes sense. So if you notice, the AI was used to bring these historical images that exist to life as opposed to creating new ones. So the only kind of digital creations were things that were bringing the building to life. So architectural elements, background elements, things like fire or jungle during the Vietnam scenes. All the other kind of core historical images themselves were those primary source documents, photos or paintings, then we used AI programming to animate in limited ways.
Yeah, you saw people going by on horses that were still when we saw the picture, people in boats, all kind of uses of that animation, but keeping, like you said, keeping true to the imagery that was already created.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a really important part. And that's kind of our philosophy here at the museum is we don't want to use AI to create new historical source materials because there's already such great source materials that already exist in the historical record. And so we were able to kind of blend that with our philosophy towards AI in a really dynamic way. And I think really positioned us too as kind of this content expert. And that's what our museum prides itself on, is having this historical expertise, this amazing collection of primary source materials that we're able to tell these really unique, amazing stories with.
Do you have any idea how many hours of total time went into creating it, the writing it, the editing it, the scoring it, all of that?
Oh my goodness. I would say incalculable. So, we started this process in like January of 2025, actively working on this project.
Wow.
So it's been, a year and a half of active work. And I will say, in the past like 3 or 4 months, it was almost, every day
non-stop,
for several hours every day. So hundreds and hundreds of hours, I think, were spent on perfecting this. And again, with sourcing all these images, we had to source thousands of images just to provide all the options and all the different ways that they could be used on our building. And only a fraction of those actually made it in.
I guess they had to be powerful enough to stand alone to an extent too.
Exactly.
When you were rehearsing, quote unquote, were you sitting in a room with a big screen and then they were projecting it with projectors, or how did you actually rehearse it and plan it before you put it on the big screen?
The design team came and they 3D scanned the front of our building, the start of this process. And that was really important for them. So they were able to map down to the inch the architecture of the front facade of the museum. They were then able to use that program to very in minutia associate the different imagery and the different design elements to every specific part of the building.
So that was kind of like a template. So they were editing it in like Media Composer or Premiere or one of those video editing programs, or was this something more sophisticated?
Again, I do not know much on the technical side of things. It seemed pretty sophisticated to me. That being said, I'm a historian, not a tech guy.
Right.
So all of the examples that we were getting as they were developing the show were all in this kind of like that 3D format. And we watched those just on our computers. So the first time that we were able to actually see the show in a large format was the day before our preview show. So we previewed the show for the National Speech and Debate Tournament that was here in town beginning of June. And so the night before that screening for the students, we tested it on the front of the building as they were calibrating the projectors. And that was really a exciting moment because seeing it on your screen was one thing, but seeing it 40 feet tall was a totally different experience.
So when you saw it either for the first time on that, or maybe when you saw it for the first time with an audience, did you get a little verklempt? Did you get a little teary-eyed at the?
Yeah, we really did. Yeah, seeing it with an audience really made a difference. And especially with the students from the National Speech and Debate Tournament, middle school and high school students are notoriously a tough crowd. And so when they were cheering at these different moments, that really filled us with a lot of excitement that we knew that this show was really going to impact people. Not enough can be said of seeing it with those large audiences. And so we were really, really excited when so many people came out for the main run of shows. We had upwards of 8,000 people there every night.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of crowd experience, as Sherry was saying too, really emphasized the show and really heightened the experience for everybody.
So let's get technical. So where were the projectors placed?
Yep. So the projectors were on the front lawn itself. There were 4 projectors covering the front of the building, and they were up on lifts to get them at the right height to get over like the balustrade, the front terrace of the building.
There was other stuff going, the block party, you had bands performing and you had some other stuff going on before the event. So there was something to do.
Yeah, and that was a big part of this, was we knew that getting people to come out to watch a 15-minute show at 9 p.m. was going to be a hard sell. So how do we convince people that this is something that they want to spend their evening doing? And that block party was a big part of that. So having, popular bands come, like No BS Brass by Eurythmo. Also, on the back of our building, we had a tent that had different cultural partners from across town.
A little train ride.
Exactly, a train ride, a bounce house, so stuff for the whole family. The Virginia Humanities came with their Virginia Folklife program, and so this is an apprenticeship program that they run. So we worked with them to have a different apprentice master team here every evening, and so that included an African-American quilt guild. There was a 102-year-old master quilter who was here.
Wow.
So she was able to tell her story about what quilting means to her. There was this amazing display of dozens of quilts. And so I thought that was a really important part of this, showing that history is not just in the past, it's all around us. And there are still people in Virginia carrying on these traditions that make our state so unique that we really wanted to feature as part of this overall program.
And as we mentioned earlier when we were talking with Sherry, it was great to hear the audience reaction. Every time equality for all came up, the audience went crazy. I noticed the gay pride. There were a couple of, I'm gay, so I was loving that one. Now I have to ask you a difficult question. This celebrated 250 years, which is technically 2026. I did not see anything of Biden and Trump in there. Was there an intentional decision to stop it before the current day, even though it wasn't technically 250?
There was, yeah. So when we were thinking about the major events and time periods to include in this, and again, the overall goal of this event was to be as inclusive, to be as positive of an experience for everybody as possible. And so our general philosophy here at the museum is not to hide any history, not to cover anything up. We're happy to talk about difficult things, controversial things. But with our modern social political divide being so contentious and it being so raw on some of these different topics, we thought it was the best experience for our public, for our audience, to stop, around like 2020 was when we kind of stopped. So we had images of COVID. We did have a small acknowledgement of Donald Trump being elected in 2020 for his first term. So stopping then to give that little bit of space for people to take our current politics and divisiveness out of the experience.
Remembering the good old days.
Yeah, we're in good old days, but also too, as historians, we like to take some time before we really jump into analyzing the impact of different events and people, because we're still living through it. And so we're not 100% sure what the impacts are going to be, how things are going to play out. And so other than wanting to try to stay out of the modern political divide, it's also from a historical standpoint that these things are still playing out. And so a little too soon to include in the narrative.
Only 32,000 people got to see this. Will there ever be another opportunity? Is there going to be another show anywhere? I know that there's some of it on the website, but you don't really get the effect.
Yeah, so we do have some clips, but as you said, the show is really meant to be seen in person. Right. And it's also really specifically designed for the front of our building. As you saw, the different architectural elements and everything. I will say never. I'm sure we will think of some way to potentially show this again at our building. But as you saw too, it is a huge logistical
absolutely. Yeah, you got to close down streets and everything. Yeah, it is a lot.
So nothing planned for the immediate future, but we're hopeful. We own the hard drive and the intellectual property, so either the show itself or something like that will probably come out again sometime in the future.
Oh, good. And I'll be sure to make sure people know about it when it does. So I know you spend a lot of your time heads down watching this thing for months and months and months. My question for you, I usually like to ask, is when you're not working on that or studying history, what have you been watching lately on TV, streaming, a movie or anything?
Ooh.
And please tell me it's not all documentaries on...
It is not. No. I actually don't watch too many documentaries in my spare time because I deal with so much of it at work.
You live in it, yeah.
I think one of my favorite shows I watched recently was Widow's Bay.
Oh, really?
The Matthew Rhys comedy horror show on Apple TV.
Yeah, I didn't think it was very funny or very scary. I was a little disappointed in it. Some people, it just got a whole bunch of Emmy nominations. So what did you like about it? I kept waiting it to be funnier or scarier, and it never really did either.
Sure. Well, I mean, to me, I liked the combination. I thought it was just scary enough and just funny enough for me. I also really liked the atmosphere of the whole show, of this kind of spooky Nantucket kind of feel.
Right.
And also like the timelessness of it. You can't really figure out, like, are they in the modern day? Are they in like the 1980s?
Well, that's interesting. Okay. So Sam, this has been great to hear about that. Congratulations. And again, it was an amazing event, and hopefully I will be able to tell people in the future they can go see it one more night there, or many nights there.
Well, thanks so much, Jerry. I really appreciate your excitement over. We were so honored to be able to do this and to bring it to Virginians. And just, again, to remind folks to always check out what we're doing at the museum. We're always coming up with new programs. Exactly. And, and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
Great. Good deal.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
That was Sam Florer, Director of Public Programs at the Virginia Museum of History and Culture, talking about IllumiNATION, the outdoor event celebrating our country's 250th birthday that was projected on the front of the museum from June 25th through 28th. By the way, we got so involved in our chat, I forgot to ask about the cool live fireworks display that ended the screening. I'll have a link to IllumiNATION on the webpage for this show, and it does feature a tiny representation of moments from the event.
Coming soon. In theaters.
The Odyssey. Apparently no other studios wanted to go up against Chris Nolan's new epic, based on Homer's tale and starring Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland, and lots of other names.
TV and streaming.
Lucky on Apple. Anya Taylor-Joy plays a con artist targeted by both the FBI and a ruthless crime boss when a multi-million-dollar heist goes wrong. Also with Timothy Oliphant and Annette Bening, and created by the man behind Your Friends and Neighbors. Ride or Die on Prime. Hannah Wadlington is cast as a deadly assassin, and her best friend Octavia Spencer has no idea, at least at first. The Hawk on Netflix. Will Ferrell plays a broken-down golfer who's one major short of a grand slam. The Fight on Hulu follows a group of adolescent boxers and their formerly incarcerated coach in southeast Washington, D.C., on the road to defend their national title. Heartstopper Forever on Netflix. After 3 seasons of this gay high school romance comes this feature-length finale. Descendants, Wicked Wonderland on Disney, the latest installment in the fantasy teen series. Next week, meet Carol Connors, the woman who wrote the theme from Rocky, dated Elvis, and lots more amazing escapades in her colorful life and career. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.